All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about Henry Martyn. Now, this was a guy who reached the absolute peak of success. I mean, the top of the top. And then he just gave it all away for a calling that would literally burn his life out in just over a decade. It's an incredible story.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote from the man himself. He says this right after he's achieved the highest possible honor at Cambridge. Think about that. You're on top of the world, and this is what you say? It's kind of shocking, right? It just makes you wonder, what on earth could possibly be missing?
So, that feeling, that emptiness, that's what really kicks off the first part of his story. We're going to look at how a guy who, from the outside, had everything, felt like he had absolutely nothing, and more importantly, where that feeling was about to take him.
So who was this guy? Well, Martyn's early life was all about his brain. He was apparently physically frail, but his mind, it was a powerhouse. He basically conquered Cambridge, earning this title Senior Wrangler, which was like the Nobel Prize for math students back then. It was the absolute top. But, he later admitted that all that success came with a ton of pride, and it kind of pushed him away from any kind of spiritual life.
And this timeline, wow, it really puts his life into perspective, doesn't it? It's just a whirlwind. You see him at the peak of his academic glory in 1801, and then, just 11 years later, he's gone. It's just crazy how much he packed into that short amount of time and how much he gave up.
So, even with all those awards, that feeling of grasping a shadow just wouldn't go away. You know that feeling when something's just missing? He started reading about these missionaries, guys like William Carey in India and David Brainerd. And their stories, they showed him a totally different kind of purpose, a purpose that had zero to do with trophies and titles. But answering that new call, well, it was going to cost him big time. Which brings us to the next part of his life, a journey of incredible sacrifice.
I mean, look at this choice he had to make. It was so clear-cut. Path number one, a cushy, brilliant life in England. We're talking a top-tier career, everyone knowing his name, and marrying the woman he loved, Lydia Grenfell. Path number two, a tough, lonely, totally uncertain life as a missionary. His friends, of course, were telling him, stay, you're crazy. But he just felt this pull, this calling he couldn't shake.
And get this, 9 months. That's how long it took just to get from England to India by sea back then. This wasn't like hopping on a plane. This was a one-way ticket, a total life commitment.
And you can just imagine him on that long, lonely boat trip. He was constantly wrestling with this decision. He kept writing in his journal, asking himself over and over again, did I do the right thing? I mean, think about it. He was leaving literally everything behind for a future that was a complete unknown. So he finally gets to India. He's only 25 years old, and he just hits the ground running. He starts this period of unbelievably intense work, a pace that would, both define his life and ultimately burn it out way too fast. And when I say intense, I mean it. His workload was just insane. He wasn't just some chaplain for the East India Company. No, he was starting schools for local kids. He took on this massive project of translating the New Testament into not one but 3 different languages, Hindustani, Persian, and Arabic. The guy was everywhere, in hospitals, with soldiers, and he even started adopting local customs just to connect with people better. And this right here, this phrase became his motto, let me burn out for God. It just perfectly captures his whole mindset. He wanted to use up every last drop of his energy, every bit of his talent. It wasn't about saving himself for later. It was about giving everything, right now, no matter what it cost. But you can't keep up a pace like that forever. It just took a massive toll on him. His health started to fail, from the overwork, from illness, and that's when he decided to embark on his final and most dangerous journey. See, he was battling tuberculosis, the very same disease that had killed his sister, which must have been just awful. And it gave him this incredible sense of urgency, like time was running out. He had one last big goal: get to Persia, perfect his translation of the New Testament, and then present it to the Shah, the king. He figured if he could get the Shah's stamp of approval, it would give the work some serious weight. And when he got to Persia, he didn't just hang out on the sidelines. He went all in. He started wearing Persian clothes, grew a beard. He lived right among the scholars in the city of Shiraz. He spent months just debating with them, these intense conversations about faith. And all that back and forth actually helped him refine his translation. He finally finished the whole thing in February of 1812. He never made it home. His journey was cut short, so tragically. But here's the thing, his death wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. In a lot of ways, it was the beginning. It was the spark for the very change he'd been fighting for.
His last days were just filled with suffering. It's really hard to read about. He was trying to make his way to Constantinople to catch a ship back to England, but his body just gave up. He was burning up with a fever, and to make things even worse, his own guide, the person who was supposed to be helping him, robbed him and just left him to die alone in the city of Tokat, in what's now Turkey.
31. He was just 31 years old when he died on October 16, 1812. Just an incredible, brilliant life, gone way, way too soon.
And this is where the story gets really incredible. It's the ultimate irony, right? In death, Martin's work had a bigger impact than he ever could have dreamed of while he was alive. His translations, they got published. That Persian New Testament, it was presented to the Shah, just like he wanted. And the biggest thing of all, the story of his death, of his sacrifice, actually moved the British Parliament to finally, officially open up India to missionary work. The very door he had been banging on his whole time there was kicked wide open because of his death. So, Martin's life, it really was like a brilliant flame that chose to burn out fast and bright, instead of just fading away. And it leaves us with a pretty challenging question, doesn't it? Here was a guy with so much talent. He could have had it all, comfort, fame, you name it. But instead, he poured every bit of himself into something he believed in. And his story kind of forces you to look in the mirror and ask, what am I doing with my talents? For what will you dedicate what you've been given?